The little girl had been missing for 47 minutes. David Harding stood in the opulent lobby of the Starlight Grand Hotel. He was surrounded by security personnel, hotel managers, and his own team of anxious assistants. His face betrayed nothing but a controlled calm. His hands were surprisingly steady. But inside, David felt like he was free-falling. "Emily," he whispered, "where are you?" His 5-year-old daughter had vanished during a business convention. One moment she had been sitting quietly in the corner of the meeting room, contentedly coloring in her book. The next, she was simply gone. If you have ever briefly lost sight of your child, even for a heart-stopping second, you know the primal terror that grips your soul. Now, imagine that terror stretching unforgivingly across 47 minutes and counting, relentlessly counting. "Mr. Harding," the hotel manager stammered nervously. "We've searched every floor, the restaurants, the pool area, the spa. We can't find her anywhere." "Search again," David commanded, his voice strained. "Sir, we've already searched 3 times, thoroughly." "Then search a 4th time," David's voice turned to ice. "My daughter is in this building. Find her." The manager practically fled, disappearing back into the bustling activity. David pulled out his phone with trembling fingers and dialed his mother. Eleanor Harding answered almost instantly. "Have they found her yet, David?" "No, Mother, not yet." "I told you not to bring her to these conventions," Eleanor scolded. "She's too young, too sensitive. She needs to be home, with proper supervision and routine." "Mother," David said through clenched teeth, "not now." He ended the call abruptly, cutting off her response. 48 minutes now, and each one felt like an eternity. His wife had been gone for 2 years. A senseless car accident. He had been driving. Sarah had been in the passenger seat. A drunk driver had blown through a red light, shattering their lives forever. David had miraculously walked away with only minor injuries. Sarah had not walked away at all. And Emily, who had been in the back seat, had not spoken a single word since. 2 years of agonizing silence. 2 years of countless therapists, specialists, and mountains of medications. 2 years of helplessly watching his daughter retreat deeper and deeper into her shell, a shadow of her former self. And now, she was missing. David closed his eyes tightly. "Sarah," he pleaded silently, "please, help me find her." 3 floors below the bustling lobby, in the labyrinthine basement, where the laundry rooms and storage areas sprawled, Maria Rodriguez pushed her cleaning cart through the seemingly endless empty hallways. She actually preferred working down here, away from the judging eyes of the hotel guests. No curious stares, no whispers, no one to visibly react to the scars that disfigured the left side of her face. The scars that, in her mind, had irrevocably cost her everything: her husband, her confidence, and her belief that she deserved any semblance of happiness in this world. Maria hummed softly as she worked, a gentle lullaby she used to sing to her daughter, Sophia. Sophia was 7 years old now, living with Maria's mother, while Maria worked grueling double shifts at the hotel. It wasn't ideal. It certainly wasn't what Maria had envisioned for her life, but it was the only way she could possibly afford the mountain of medical bills. The bills from the catastrophic fire, the memories of which still haunted her every waking moment. Maria tried desperately not to think about the fire, about the night she had fearlessly run into the burning building to save her precious daughter, about the ceiling that had unforgivingly collapsed on top of her, about the agonizing months spent in the hospital, the endless skin grafts, the relentless infections. She had saved Sophia. That was all that truly mattered. But in the agonizing process, she had irrevocably lost herself. Maria rounded a corner and stopped abruptly, her heart pounding in her chest. A little girl was sitting all alone on the cold, hard floor in the middle of the hallway. She was perhaps 5 years old. with dark hair framing her face and wide, haunted eyes that seemed far too knowing, too old for someone her age. She was wearing a beautiful, expensive dress that probably cost more than Maria's entire monthly paycheck, and she was silently weeping, tears streaming down her delicate cheeks without making a single sound. Maria's heart clenched with a familiar ache. She knew those silent tears all too well. She understood the kind of profound pain that was far too deep, far too raw for any sound. "Hello," Maria said softly, crouching down a few feet away from the child, her voice gentle. "Are you lost, honey?" The girl looked up at Maria. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw Maria's face. When her gaze landed on the patchwork of scars, Maria instinctively turned away, attempting to shield the damaged side of her face. She was well accustomed to this initial reaction, especially from children. They were almost always afraid of her at first. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, starting to stand. "I'll go find someone to help you find your family." But then, the little girl did something completely unexpected. She reached out with her small hand and gently grabbed Maria's hand. Maria froze. Every muscle in her body tensed. She looked down at the small, delicate fingers wrapped tightly around her own, scarred and calloused ones, at the child who wasn't recoiling in fear, wasn't screaming in terror, wasn't looking at her with horror or pity. The girl was looking at her with wonder. She opened her mouth hesitantly. Her lips moved slightly. And then, in a voice that was raspy and clearly unused, she finally spoke. "Pretty," she whispered softly. Maria blinked in stunned disbelief. "What did you say, Wayne, honey?" "Pretty," the girl repeated. Her small finger pointed directly at Maria's scars. "Like stars." Maria felt something deep inside her crack, something that had been frozen solid for 3 long, agonizing years. No one, not a single person, had ever called her scars pretty before. "What is your name?" Maria asked, her voice thick with emotion and barely a whisper. The girl didn't answer. She simply held Maria's hand even tighter, as if afraid to let go. "That's okay, honey," Maria reassured gently. "You don't have to talk if you don't want to. My name is Maria. I work here at the hotel. Can I help you find your mommy and daddy?" So the girl shook her head violently, refusing. "You don't want to find your family, sweetie?" Another frantic shake of her head, more forceful this time. "Are you scared?" Maria asked softly. A long, hesitant pause, then a small, almost imperceptible nod. Maria understood. Maybe better than anyone else could. She had been profoundly scared too, after the fire, scared of people, scared of the world outside, scared of being seen, truly seen. "Can I tell you a secret?" Maria asked gently, her voice barely audible. The girl nodded slowly, her dark eyes wide and curious. "I get scared too, honey," Maria confided, "every single day. But you know what helps me? When I feel afraid." The girl's eyes widened even more, filled with a glimmer of hope. "Singing," Maria said softly. "When I am scared, I sing. Would you like me to sing for you, sweetie?" The girl nodded again, eagerly this time. Maria took a deep breath, steadying herself. And then, sitting on the cold, unforgiving floor of a hotel basement, she began to sing. It was the same lullaby she sang to Sophia, a comforting song her own mother had sung to her when she was a child, a song about shining stars and beautiful dreams, and the unwavering light that never truly goes out, even in the darkest of nights. Her voice was soft and a little shaky at first, but gradually grew stronger and clearer. It echoed off the bare concrete walls of the basement hallway, filling the empty space with a sense of unexpected warmth and comfort. The little girl listened intently, with her whole being. Her tears finally stopped flowing. Her grip on Maria's hand gradually relaxed. And slowly, so very slowly, she leaned her small body against Maria's side, finding solace in her unexpected presence. By the time Maria finished the final verse of the lullaby, the girl's eyes were softly closed. She wasn't fully asleep. Not quite. She was simply peaceful. A state she clearly hadn't experienced in a long, long time. Maria looked down at this strange, silent child who had called her scars pretty, who wasn't afraid of her disfigured face, who was leaning against her with such trust, as if she belonged there, as if she had finally found a safe harbor. And in that moment, Maria felt something she hadn't felt in what seemed like an eternity. Hope. What would you have done in Maria's position? Would you have stayed with that lost child? Leave your answer in the comments below. 53 minutes now. David was slowly losing his grip on reality, starting to unravel. He had personally searched every public area of the hotel, going over the same ground again and again. He had questioned every single staff member he could find. He had obsessively reviewed every frame of security footage that showed Emily calmly leaving the conference room, walking to the elevator with a strange sense of purpose, and going down to the desolate basement levels, where the security cameras were sparse and unreliable, and the hallways were almost always deserted. "I'm going down there myself," David said to his head of security, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Stay here in case she somehow comes back up." "Sir, let me send my entire team down there first." "No," David said sharply, brooking no argument. David was already heading for the service elevator. "She is my daughter. I will find her myself." The basement was a labyrinth, a maze of corridors, storage rooms, laundry facilities, mechanical areas. David walked through them systematically, calling Emily's name. No response. Of course, there was no response. Emily didn't talk. Emily hadn't said a word in 2 years, but she could hear. She could come to him if she heard his voice. "Emily." David called again. "Sweetheart, it's Daddy. Please come out." Nothing. He turned another corner and stopped. There, sitting on the floor in the middle of a hallway, was his daughter. She was leaning against a woman in a cleaning uniform. Her eyes were closed, her face was peaceful, and she was holding the woman's hand, like she never wanted to let go. The woman looked up when she heard David's footsteps. She turned her face, and he saw the scars that tell a story. They covered the left side of her face, from her forehead to her jaw, pink and white and textured, like a road map of pain, like a story written on skin. Most people would have looked away. Most people would have felt pity, or disgust, or discomfort. David felt none of those things. He felt gratitude. "You found her," he said, his voice cracking. The woman stood quickly, gently disentangling herself from Emily. "I'm sorry, sir. She was lost. I was just keeping her company until someone came. Don't apologize." David moved forward and knelt in front of his daughter. "Emily, sweetheart, are you okay?" Emily opened her eyes. She looked at her father, and then she looked at Maria, and she spoke. "Daddy," she said. Her voice was rough, unused, beautiful. She has scars that tell a story on her face. David felt the world stop. His daughter had spoken. For the first time in 2 years, his daughter had spoken. He looked at the scarred woman, at her kind eyes, at the hand Emily was still holding. "What did you do?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How did you get her to talk?" Maria shook her head. "I didn't do anything. I just sang her a song." "She talked to you." David stood up, his legs unsteady. She hasn't spoken to anyone in 2 years. Not me. Not her grandmother. Not any of the therapists or doctors. And she talked to you." Maria didn't know what to say. She just stood there, uncomfortable with the intensity of his gaze. Emily tugged on her father's sleeve. "Daddy, I want to stay with the lady with the scars that tell a story." David looked at his daughter. At the first sign of life he had seen in her eyes since Sarah died. Then he looked at Maria, and he did something that shocked everyone who witnessed it later on security footage. He reached out and took Maria's hand. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for finding her. Thank you for staying with her. Thank you for whatever magic you did that made her speak again." Maria stared at their joined hands, at this wealthy, powerful man who was holding her scarred fingers, like they were precious. "It wasn't magic," she said quietly. "I just treated her like a person." David nodded slowly. "Maybe that is what magic is." He did not let go of her hand. Emily grabbed Maria's other hand, and the three of them stood there. In the basement of the Starlight Grand Hotel, connected by touch, connected by something none of them could name. What would happen next would change all of their lives forever. But in that moment, there was just this. A father who had found his daughter, a child who had found her voice, and a scarred woman who had found something she thought was lost forever. Hope. This story is already touching hearts around the world. If it is touching yours, the Super Thanks button below is a way to support more content like this. Every contribution helps bring these stories to life. The news spread through the Starlight Grand Hotel like wildfire. David Harding's daughter spoke. The little girl who had been silent for 2 years finally said words, and it happened in the basement with a cleaning woman. By the time David brought Emily back to the lobby, a crowd had gathered, hotel staff, convention attendees, his own team, and his mother, Eleanor Harding, who had arrived in a flurry of designer clothes and cold fury. "David," Eleanor said, rushing forward. "Is she all right?" "What happened?" "She's fine, Mother." David kept one hand on Emily's shoulder. The other hand was no longer holding Maria's. He had released it when they entered the elevator, but he could still feel the warmth of her fingers. "I heard she spoke," Eleanor continued. "Is it true?" Emily tugged on David's sleeve. She was staring across the lobby at Maria, who was trying to slip away unnoticed. "Daddy," Emily said. Her voice was still rough, still unused, but stronger now. "The lady with the scars that tell a story is leaving." Everyone in the lobby heard it. Everyone stared at the little girl who had been mute for years. Then they stared at Maria. Maria froze. She had been so close to escaping, to disappearing back into the basement where she belonged. Now every eye was on her uniform, on her scars that tell a story. She wanted to run, but Emily was looking at her with those big, trusting eyes. And David was looking at her like she was a miracle. "Wait," David called out. "Please." Maria turned slowly. "I should get back to work," she said quietly. "I'm glad your daughter is okay. What's your name?" Maria hesitated. Maria Rodriguez." "Maria," David said, "I would like to speak with you. In private. If you have time." Eleanor stepped forward. "David, surely this can wait. Emily needs to be examined by a doctor. You have a convention to finish. This woman is just a cleaning person. Just a cleaning person." The words hung in the air like a slap. Maria felt her face burn. She was used to this, used to being dismissed, used to being nothing. But Emily was not used to it. "She's not just a cleaning person," Emily said loudly. Everyone in the lobby turned to stare at this child who had been silent for 2 years and was now defending a stranger. "She's the lady with the scars that tell a story. She's nice. She sang to me." Eleanor's face hardened. Emily, darling, that's sweet, but you don't understand. I do understand, Emily said stubbornly. She stayed with me when I was scared. She held my hand. That is important. David looked at his daughter with wonder. In the space of an hour, she had gone from completely silent to speaking full sentences, to arguing with her grandmother, to standing up for a woman she had just met. Whatever Maria Rodriguez had done, it was working. Mother, David said firmly, Maria is coming to dinner with us tonight. I want to thank her properly for finding Emily and helping her. Eleanor's eyes widened. Dinner? David, that's hardly appropriate. I was not asking for permission. The words were quiet, but final. Margaret pressed her lips together, but said nothing. David turned back to Maria, who looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. Please, Mun, he said. Let me thank you. It's just dinner. Maria shook her head. Mr. Harding, I appreciate the offer, but I have to work. I can't just leave for dinner. I'll speak to your manager. David was already gesturing to one of his assistants. Consider it a paid evening off. Sir, I really couldn't. You made my daughter speak, David said. His voice cracked slightly. For 2 years, I've taken her to every specialist in the world. I've spent millions of dollars on treatments and therapies. Nothing worked. And then, you sat with her in a basement and sang her a song. And she spoke. He looked at her, with eyes that were wet with unshed tears. Please, let me do something. Anything. Maria looked at Emily, who was nodding enthusiastically. Please, Star Lady, Emily said. Please come to dinner. Maria had never been able to say no to a child. Okay, she said finally. Dinner. Emily cheered, Margaret scowled, and David smiled, for the first time in what felt like years. 3 hours later, Maria found herself sitting in a private dining room at the hotel's most expensive restaurant. The Gilded Lily. She had changed out of her cleaning uniform into the nicest clothes she owned, a simple black dress that she had bought for job interviews, low heels that pinched her feet. Her hair was down, carefully arranged to cover the scars that tell a story on the side of her face. She felt completely out of place. The dining room was decorated with flowers and candles. The table was set with more silverware than Maria had in her entire apartment. And across from her sat David Harding, one of the wealthiest men in the city, with Emily between them, coloring happily on a piece of paper. This is too much, Maria said, looking around. I just found your daughter. Anyone would have done the same thing. No, David said quietly. They would not have. Maria frowned. What do you mean? David was quiet for a moment. Then he said, After my wife died, Emily stopped talking. But she didn't stop existing. She was still there, still present, still needing connection. He looked at his daughter with painful love, but people stopped trying to connect with her. They would see her silence and assume she didn't understand. They would talk over her, talk around her, treat her like she wasn't in the room. Maria felt her heart clench. She knew exactly what that felt like. Even the specialists, David continued, they would analyze her, observe her, but they rarely just sat with her. They rarely treated her like a child who was scared and sad and needed someone to be present. He looked at Maria. You didn't try to fix her. You just stayed with her. You sang to her. You treated her like she mattered. She does matter, Maria said. I know how, but not everyone acts like it. They were quiet for a moment. Emily continued coloring, oblivious to the weight of the conversation around her. Can I ask you something? David said. Maria nodded. Your scars. How did you get them? Maria tensed. It was the question she dreaded most. The question that always came with pity, or morbid curiosity, or thinly veiled disgust. But David was not looking at her with any of those things. He was just looking at her, waiting, not demanding. A fire, Maria said finally. 3 years ago, my apartment building caught fire in the middle of the night. My daughter was trapped in her room. I went in to get her. Maria paused. The memories were still sharp, still painful. The ceiling collapsed on me, she continued. I covered Sophia with my body. She made it out without a scratch. I spent 6 months in the hospital. David was quiet. Then he said, "You saved her life." I did what any mother would do. No. David shook his head. You did what a hero would do. You ran into a burning building for your child. These scars aren't disfigurements. They're medals. They're proof of the greatest love there is. Maria felt tears prick her eyes. No one had ever said that to her before. Her ex-husband had called her damaged goods. Her co-workers avoided looking at her. Strangers stared or looked away quickly. But David Harding was looking at her like she was something precious. "Daddy," Emily said suddenly, looking up from her coloring. "Can Maria come over tomorrow too?" David looked at his daughter, then at Maria. "I would like that," he said, "if Maria is willing." Maria thought about her bills, her double shifts, her mother, who was getting too old to watch Sophia all the time, her life, which was a constant struggle just to survive. She thought about this man, who looked at her scars and saw medals instead of disfigurements. She thought about this little girl, who called her the Star Lady and held her hand like she never wanted to let go. "Okay," Maria said. "I would like that too." Emily beamed, and in that moment, Maria saw a glimpse of what this child must have been like before tragedy stole her voice. Bright, joyful, alive. Maybe, Maria thought, maybe this little girl isn't the only one who needs healing. Maybe they all are. The next 2 weeks changed everything. David hired Maria as Emily's personal caregiver. The monthly paycheck was more than Maria had made in 5 years of cleaning. The hours were reasonable, and most importantly, she got to bring Sophia with her. Sophia, who was 7 years old, with her mother's dark hair and her father's absent smile. Sophia, who had grown up watching her mother hide from the world. Sophia, who had learned too young that beauty could be destroyed in a single night, the first time Sophia met Emily. Maria held her breath. "Sophia." "This is Emily," Maria said. "She's 5. She likes to color and play with dolls." Sophia looked at Emily with serious eyes. "My mum says you didn't talk for a long time." Emily nodded. "Why not?" Emily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I was sad. My mommy died." Sophia nodded solemnly. "My daddy left after mommy got hurt. He said she wasn't pretty anymore." Maria felt her heart shatter. She hadn't known Sophia understood that, hadn't known her daughter had heard those words, but Emily just tilted her head. "Your mommy is the prettiest person I ever saw," she said. "She has scars that tell a story on her face." Sophia looked at Maria, then back at Emily. "Scars that tell a story," Sophia said. Emily nodded enthusiastically, "Like the ones in the sky, but better because you can see them in the daytime." Sophia was quiet. Then she said, "I never thought of it like that." Maria watched her daughters, biological and chosen, connect over something so simple, so profound. Maybe Emily was right. Maybe they were stars. Maybe she had been looking at herself all wrong. David watched Maria with his daughter and fell a little more in love each day. He did not call it love, not yet. He called it gratitude, admiration, appreciation. But deep down, he knew. There was something about Maria that drew him in. Not just her kindness, not just her effect on Emily. It was the way she moved through the world, quiet, strong, unbroken, despite everything that had tried to break her. She was beautiful. Not in spite of her scars that tell a story. Because of them. because of what they represented, because of the story they told, and she had no idea. One afternoon, David came home early from work to find Maria and the girls in the garden. Emily was chasing fireflies. Sophia was reading under an old oak tree, and Maria was sitting on a weathered Adirondack chair, her face tilted toward the sun, her scars that tell a story visible for once. She looked peaceful and unguarded, free. David stopped in the doorway of the sunroom and just watched. Then Maria opened her eyes and saw him. She immediately turned her face, almost instinctively hiding her scars that tell a story behind her hair. "It's just me, David," David said softly, walking toward her. "You don't have to hide." Maria's cheeks flushed. "I wasn't hiding. The sun was in my eyes." They both knew it was a lie. But David didn't push. He sat down beside her on the bench. "Can I ask you something?" Maria nodded. "Why do you hide them?" Maria was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Because when people see them, they see a victim. They see something broken, something to pity, or fear, or avoid." David turned to look at her fully. "I don't see any of those things. What do you see?" David reached out and gently tucked her hair behind her ear, revealing her scars that tell a story. "I see a mother who ran into a fire for her child," he said. "I see a woman who survived something terrible and kept going. I see strength, courage, beauty." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to." David's hand lingered on her cheek. "I'm saying it because it's true." They sat there, frozen in the moment, the sun warm on their faces, the girls laughing in the distance. Then Maria pulled away. "Mr. Harding," she said. David, she corrected. This is not appropriate. I work for you. I'm your daughter's caregiver. There are boundaries." David nodded slowly. "You're right. I apologize if I overstepped." "You didn't," Maria said quickly. "I mean, you did. But I didn't mind. I mean..." She stopped, flustered. David smiled. "How about this? I'll respect the boundaries while you work for me, but when Emily is older and doesn't need a caregiver anymore, I'm going to ask you to dinner. A real dinner. Not a thank you dinner. A date." Maria stared at him. "That could be years from now. I'm a patient man. What if I meet someone else by then? Will you?" Maria thought about it. About the men who looked away from her scars that tell a story. About the loneliness she had accepted as her fate. About this man who saw her fully and found her beautiful. "No," she admitted. "I don't think I will." "Then I'll wait," David said, "however long it takes." It wasn't a declaration of love. It was something better. It was a promise. 2 months into Maria's employment, Eleanor Harding decided she had had enough. She had watched her son fall for this scarred cleaning woman. She had watched her granddaughter attach herself to this stranger and her daughter. She had watched her carefully constructed world begin to crumble. And she was not going to allow it. Eleanor had connections, resources, information. Within a week, she knew everything there was to know about Maria Rodriguez. The fire, the hospital bills, the ex-husband who had abandoned her, the mother who watched Sophia while Maria worked double shifts, the poverty, the struggle, the desperation, and she knew exactly how to use it. "David," Eleanor said one evening, joining her son in his study. "We need to talk about the caregiver." "Maria," David said without looking up from his papers. "Her name is Maria." "Yes, Maria." Eleanor sat down across from him. "Have you considered that she might not be suitable for Emily?" David finally looked up. "Suitable? She comes from nothing, David. She has no education, No family connections, no resources, and that face. Eleanor shuddered delicately. Emily is at an impressionable age. Is that really the example you want to set for her? David's jaw tightened. Mother, I would choose my next words very carefully if I were you. I'm only thinking of Emily. No, you're thinking of yourself. You're thinking of what your friends at the country club will say. You're thinking of appearances. Eleanor's eyes hardened. Someone has to think of them. You certainly are not. You're so besotted with this woman that you can't see what's right in front of you. And what is that? She's using you, Eleanor said flatly. She found a wealthy man whose daughter happens to respond to her. And now she's positioning herself to become the next Mrs. Harding. It's a classic manipulation. David stood up so fast, his chair fell backward. Get out, he said quietly. David, get out of my study. Get out of my house. I will not have you speak about Maria that way. Eleanor stood, her composure cracking. You're making a mistake. Then it's my mistake to make. David walked to the door and opened it. Goodbye, Mother. Eleanor walked to the door, then stopped. You'll regret this, she said. When she shows her true colors, when she takes everything from you. Remember that I tried to warn you. She left without looking back. David closed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. He knew his mother. He knew she wouldn't give up easily. She would find another way to destroy what he was building with Maria. He just had to be ready. What David did not know was that Eleanor was already 3 steps ahead. She had hired a private investigator. She had found Maria's ex-husband. She had learned about the debts that still hung over Maria's head, about the collection agencies, about the threat of losing her apartment, and she had found the perfect weapon. Victoria Hayes. Victoria was everything Eleanor wanted for her son. Beautiful, wealthy, well-connected. She came from one of the oldest families in the city. She had been educated at the finest boarding schools. She moved in all the right circles, and she had been pursuing David for years. He had never been interested, too consumed by grief, too focused on Emily, too busy building his empire. But now, Eleanor thought, things were different. Now there was competition. And Victoria Hayes did not lose competitions. 3 days after Eleanor's expulsion from David's house, Victoria appeared at a charity event where David was the keynote speaker. She was stunning in a red dress that probably cost more than Maria made in a month. Her hair was perfect. Her smile was perfect. Everything about her was perfect. And she made sure David noticed. "Hi, David," she said, approaching him after his speech. "That was wonderful. So inspiring." "Victoria." David nodded politely. "Thank you." "I heard about your daughter," Victoria continued. "That she's speaking again. That must be such a relief." "It is." Victoria leaned closer. "Your mother told me about the woman who helped. Maria, the caregiver. She sounds interesting." David's expression cooled. "Did she?" "Eleanor is worried about you, David," Victoria said. "We all are. This woman appeared out of nowhere and suddenly has access to your daughter, your home, or your life. Don't you think that's suspicious?" "No," David said flatly. "I do not." "David," Victoria put a hand on his arm, "I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but I care about you. I care about Emily. I just want to make sure you're not being taken advantage of." David removed her hand. "Victoria, I appreciate your concern, but my life and my choices are none of your business. Now, if you'll excuse me." He walked away without looking back. Victoria watched him go, her perfect smile never wavering. But inside, she was seething. No one walked away from Victoria Hayes. No one. And certainly not for some scarred nobody from the basement of a hotel. This was far from over. Maria knew something was wrong the moment she arrived at work the next morning. The security guard, who usually waved her through, stopped her at the gate. "I'm sorry. Miss Rodriguez," he said, "I have orders not to let you in." "What?" Maria frowned. "Orders from whom?" "Mrs. Harding." Maria felt her stomach drop. Eleanor was not supposed to be here. David had told her about their argument. "There must be a mistake," Maria said. "I work here. I take care of Emily." The guard looked uncomfortable. "I'm just following orders, Ma'am. Let me call David. He's not here. He had an early meeting downtown." Maria pulled out her phone and dialed David's number. It went to voicemailer. She tried again. Voicemail. Something was very wrong. Then the front door opened, and Eleanor Harding walked out. She was dressed immaculately, as always. Her expression was cold, satisfaction. "Ah, Maria." Eleanor said her name like it was something distasteful. "I'm glad you could make it. We need to have a conversation." "Where is Emily?" Maria demanded. "Emily is fine. She's with her new caregiver." "New caregiver. Your services are no longer required," Eleanor said. "I've hired someone more appropriate, someone with proper credentials, someone who won't give Emily nightmares with that face." Maria felt like she had been slapped. "David won't allow this," she said. "David is not here," Eleanor replied. "And by the time he returns, why, so you'll be gone, along with any evidence that you ever existed in his life. You can't do this. I can do whatever I want." Eleanor stepped closer, her voice dropping to a vicious whisper. "Did you really think you could worm your way into this family? That my son would choose someone like you? Look at yourself, Maria. You are nothing. A scarred nobody who got lucky for a few weeks. But luck runs out." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "This is a check for $50,000, Eleanor said. "Take it and disappear. Never contact my son or my granddaughter again." Maria stared at the envelope, then at Eleanor, and then she did something that surprised them both. She laughed. "Keep your money," Maria said. "I don't want it." "Everyone wants money. Not me, not like this." Maria straightened her spine. "I came here to take care of a little girl who needed someone. I did that job well. If you want to fire me, fine. But I'm not going to slink away like I did something wrong bad because I didn't." She looked Eleanor directly in the eye, and for the record, my scars that tell a story are not nightmares. They're proof that I would do anything for my child, something you clearly wouldn't understand. She turned and walked away. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was pounding, but her head was held high, behind her. Eleanor watched, with narrowed eyes. This was not over. Not by a long shot. David returned home, to find his house in chaos. Emily was screaming. Actually screaming. Something she hadn't done since her mother died. The new caregiver. A woman in a pristine white uniform was standing helplessly in the hallway, and Eleanor was trying to calm Emily down with all the warmth of an ice sculpture. "What is going on?" David demanded, rushing to his daughter. Emily threw herself into his arms. "Daddy, they took Maria away. They made her leave. I want Maria. I want the scars that tell a story, lady." David looked at his mother with cold fury. "Dad, what did you do?" "I hired a proper caregiver," Eleanor said. "Someone with credentials and someone appropriate. You fired Maria." David's voice was deadly quiet. "Without my permission. Without even telling me." "You weren't thinking clearly." Eleanor lifted her chin. "Someone had to protect this family." "Protect us from what?" "From the woman who made my daughter speak again. From the woman who brought joy back into this house. From a gold digger who saw an opportunity and took it," Eleanor snapped. Emily was still crying. "I want Maria," she sobbed. "Please, "Daddy, please bring her back." David held his daughter close. He looked at his mother, at the woman who had controlled his life for so long, at the woman who thought she knew better than everyone else. "Get out," he said. "David, get out of my house, now. And don't come back until you're ready to apologize to Maria personally." Eleanor's face hardened. "You're choosing that woman over your own mother. I'm choosing my daughter's happiness over your prejudice." David stood, much lifting Emily with him. "Now leave. Before I say something, we'll both regret." Eleanor left, but the look in her eyes promised this was far from over. David spent the next hour trying to reach Maria. Her phone was off. Her apartment had a notice on the door. She had moved out. No forwarding address. She was gone. Emily cried herself to sleep that night, calling for the Scars That Tell a Story lady, who wasn't coming. And David lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. The Harding family annual gala was 3 weeks later. It was the social event of the season. 400 guests, the most influential people in the city, media coverage and photographers. David had considered cancelling, but his board of directors had insisted. The company needed the positive publicity. The charity needed the donations. His absence would create more problems than his presence. So, he went. Emily stayed home, with the new caregiver. She had stopped screaming, but she had also stopped talking. She had retreated back into silence, just like after her mother died. David Harding felt like he was watching his daughter disappear again, and there was nothing he could do about it. The gala was being held at the Starlight Grand Hotel, the same hotel where he had first met Maria. The irony was not lost on him. "David Harding," a voice said, looking handsome as always. He turned to find Tiffany Sterling at his elbow. She was wearing a shimmering gown that probably cost more than most people made in a year. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were predatory. "Tiffany," David said flatly. "I heard about your caregiver situation," Tiffany said. "Such a shame. I hope Emily is recovering." "She is not. Children are resilient. She will forget about that woman soon enough." David's jaw tightened. "Her name is Maria, and Emily will not forget her. Neither will I." Tiffany's smile flickered. "David, you cannot possibly still be attached to that. To her, she was nobody. A cleaning woman with scars that tell a story. She was the kindest person I have ever met," David said, "and her face doesn't tell of ruin. It's beautiful." Tiffany laughed. "Beautiful? Those scars are hideous. They make people uncomfortable. Eleanor was right to get rid of her." "Eleanor was wrong." David started to walk away. "As are you." But Tiffany grabbed his arm. "Wait, I want you to meet someone." She pulled him toward a group of people near the stage. In the center of the group was a man David recognized. Maria's ex-husband. "David," Tiffany said sweetly. "This is David Harding. David, this is David Rodriguez. He used to be married to your former caregiver." David Rodriguez was exactly what David Harding had imagined. Smooth, handsome, the kind of man who smiled while he destroyed you. "Mr. Harding," David said, extending his hand, "I have heard so much about you." David did not shake his hand. "What are you doing here?" "Tiffany invited me," David said. "She thought you might want to hear the truth about Maria." "Tell us the truth." David's smile turned cruel. "Did she tell you why we divorced? Did she tell you about the insurance money? About how she let herself get burned just to collect the payout?" David felt his blood run cold. "That is a lie." "Is it?" David pulled out his phone. "I have documents, hospital records, insurance claims. Maria got $200,000 from that fire, and she never told you, did she?" David looked at the phone, at the documents that seemed so official, so damning. But something was wrong. Something did not add up. She saved her daughter from that fire, David said slowly. She nearly died. So she says, David replied. But I was there. I know what really happened. David stared at him, at Tiffany, who was watching with satisfied eyes, at the crowd that had gathered, sensing drama. And then he heard a voice. That is a lie. Everyone turned. Maria was standing at the edge of the crowd. She was wearing a simple black dress. Her hair was pulled back, her scars fully visible. She looked terrified, but she also looked determined. Maria, David breathed. She walked toward them, her chin held high. I did not let myself get burned, she said clearly. I ran into a burning building because my daughter was trapped. The ceiling collapsed on me. I spent 6 months in the hospital fighting for my life. She looked at David with contempt. You want to know why we divorced? Because the moment I came home from the hospital, you told me I was disgusting. You told me no one would ever love me. You told me I should have let Sophia die instead of ruining my face. The crowd gasped. David's face contorted. You are lying. I have the hospital records too, Maria said. The real ones. Not the forged documents you created. I have the testimonies from the firefighters who pulled me out. I have the news articles from the night of the fire. She pulled out her phone and held it up. I have everything, Maria said, because I knew someday you would try to destroy me again, and I was ready. David's face went pale. Tiffany stepped forward. This is ridiculous. Who is going to believe a scarred cleaning woman over? Over what? Maria interrupted. Over a woman who was paid by Eleanor Harding to seduce David? Over a man who abandoned his family because his wife's face wasn't pretty enough anymore? Over people who see scars that tell a story and think monster instead of survivor? She turned to face the crowd. I am Maria Rodriguez. 3 years ago, I ran into a fire to save my daughter. I lost my husband. I lost my confidence. I lost my belief that I deserved anything good. Her voice cracked, but did not break. But I did not lose my courage, and I did not lose my heart, and I will not let people like this take those from me. The ballroom was silent. Then David stepped forward. He walked past Tiffany without looking at her. He walked past David without acknowledging him. He walked straight to Maria, and he took her hand. I have been looking for you, he said quietly. For 3 weeks, I thought I lost you. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I had to leave. Your mother. She threatened. I know. David squeezed her hand. But she was wrong. About everything. About you. About us. There is no us, Maria whispered. We are too different. Our worlds are too different. Then we will build a new world, David said. Together. One where scars are stars that tell a story. And love is not measured by what you look like, but by what you do. He reached up and gently traced the scars that tell a story on her face. I love you, Maria Rodriguez. I love your courage. I love your kindness. I love your strength. And I love every single mark on your face because they prove what kind of person you are. Maria was crying now. David, everyone is watching. Do I let them watch? David smiled. Let them see what real beauty looks like. And in front of 400 of the most influential people in the city, in front of cameras and reporters, and his own mother who had just arrived at the entrance, David Harding kissed the scarred cleaning woman who had changed his life. The crowd erupted. Some gasped. Some applauded. Some whispered behind their hands. But David did not care. All that mattered was Maria. All that had ever mattered was Maria. Eleanor Harding stood frozen in the doorway, watching her son kiss the woman she had tried so hard to destroy. Tiffany Sterling fled the ballroom, her perfect makeup ruined by angry tears. David Rodriguez was surrounded by guests demanding to know the truth about his lies. And Maria Rodriguez, scarred and scared and surrounded by people who had once looked down on her, felt something she had not felt in 3 years. Loved. Truly. Completely. Unconditionally loved. The reunion with Emily was everything Maria had hoped for, and more. David brought Maria home that night. Emily was still awake, sitting in her room but staring at nothing. But the moment she saw Maria, something changed. "Star Lady!" Emily screamed, running across the room and throwing herself into Maria's arms. "You came back! You came back!" Maria held her tight, tears streaming down her face. "I am here, sweetheart. I am here." "I thought you left forever," Emily sobbed. "Like Mommy. I thought you were gone forever." Maria pulled back and looked into Emily's eyes. "I would never leave you forever. Not if I had a choice. I love you, Emily. I love you too. Star Lady." David watched them, his own eyes wet. This was his family. Not the one he had imagined. Not the one society expected, but the one his heart had chosen, and he would protect it with everything he had. The next few months were a whirlwind. David formally introduced Maria to his social circle. Some accepted her, some did not. He stopped caring about the ones who did not. Sophia moved in with them. She and Emily became inseparable, sisters in everything but blood. Eleanor eventually apologized. It was stiff and formal, and probably insincere, but it was something. David allowed her back into their lives on a probationary basis. Victoria Hayes disappeared from society. Rumors said she had moved to another city to escape the scandal. David Vasquez faced fraud charges for the forged documents. He fled the country before the trial. And Maria, slowly but surely, learned to stop hiding. She wore her hair back now. She met people's eyes. She stopped flinching when strangers stared, because David was right. Her scars that tell a story were not disfigurements. They were stars. 6 months after the gala, David proposed. It was not at a fancy restaurant or an exotic location. It was in the basement of the Starlight Grand Hotel, the same hallway where Maria had first found Emily. David had arranged for the space to be decorated with fairy lights and flowers. Emily and Sophia were hiding around the corner, giggling. "Maria," David said, taking her hands. "The first time I saw you, you were sitting on a dirty floor with my daughter and singing a lullaby. You were covered in dust. Your uniform was wrinkled, and you were the most beautiful thing I had ever seen." Maria laughed through her tears. "I was a mess. You were real," David said, "in a world full of fake people, and fake smiles, and fake everything. You were real. You did not try to impress me, son. You did not care about my money or my status. You just saw a scared little girl, and you helped her." He got down on one knee. "Maria Rodriguez, you came into my life as a cleaning woman. You became my daughter's best friend. You became my heart's home. Will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Maria looked at this man, this powerful, wealthy, kind man who saw her scars and called them stars, who loved her daughter like his own, who had stood up to his mother and society, and everyone who said they did not belong together. "Yes," she said, 1,000 times, yes. The girls burst out from their hiding spot, cheering. She said, "Yes," Emily screamed, "we are going to be a real family." David slipped the ring onto Maria's finger. Then he stood and kissed her, while their daughters danced around them. It was not a fairy tale ending. It was better. It was real. The wedding was held in the garden of David's estate. It was small by society standards, only 100 guests. But every single one of them was there because they genuinely loved the couple, not because of obligation or social climbing. Maria wore a simple white dress that showed her scars. No veil to hide behind, no makeup to cover up, just her, exactly as she was. David cried when he saw her walking down the aisle. So did Emily and Sophia, who were flower girls. So did half the guests. The ceremony was short and sweet. They had written their own vows. "Maria," David said, "when Sarah died, I thought I would never love again. I thought my heart was broken beyond repair. I spent 2 years watching my daughter fade away, and I felt powerless to stop it." He took her hands. "Then you appeared, a stranger with scars that tell a story, and kindness, and the magic ability to see past walls that seemed impenetrable. You gave my daughter her voice back. You gave me my hope back. You showed us both that love is not about perfection. It is about showing up, being present, holding hands in the dark until the light comes. His voice cracked. I promise to love you for all your days, and mine. I promise to see your scars that tell a story as stars, Kate, always. I promise to be the family you deserve and the partner you need. I promise to keep holding your hand, no matter what darkness comes. Maria wiped her eyes. David, she said, 3 years ago, I walked out of a fire with nothing. My face was destroyed. My marriage was over. My belief in myself was gone. She smiled through her tears. I spent years hiding. From strangers, from mirrors, from life. I thought I was too damaged to be loved, too broken to be beautiful, too marked by scars that tell a story to deserve happiness. She squeezed his hands. Then you held my hand. In a basement hallway, in front of your family, in front of the world, you held my hand, and you did not let go. You saw my scars that tell a story, and you saw stars. You saw my brokenness, and you saw beauty. Her voice cracked. I promise to love you for all your days and mine. I promise to stop hiding and start living. I promise to be the mother Emily deserves and the partner you need. I promise to keep holding your hand, no matter what darkness comes. The officiant smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. David pulled Maria into a kiss. The guests cheered. Emily and Sophia ran up and hugged them both. We are a family, Emily shouted. A real family. We always were, Maria said, gathering all of them close. We just had to find each other. 5 years after the wedding, Maria stood on a stage. She was addressing a crowd of burn survivors and their families at the annual Phoenix Foundation Gala. The foundation she and David had started together, an organization dedicated to helping burn survivors rebuild their lives. I want to tell you a story, Maria said, about a woman who lost everything in a fire. The crowd was silent, listening. She lost her marriage, her confidence, her belief that she deserved love. She spent years hiding behind her hair, avoiding mirrors, flinching when strangers stared. Maria touched her scars that tell a story. She wore them openly now, proudly. Then one day, a little girl looked at her scars that tell a story and said they looked like stars. Maria smiled. That little girl changed everything. She reminded the woman that beauty is not about smooth skin or perfect features. It's about courage, kindness, the willingness to run into the fire for the people you love, no matter what. Emily looked out at the crowd, at the faces marked by burns and scars that tell a story, at the people who knew exactly what she had been through, knew the battles she'd fought. Your scars aren't disfigurements, Emily said firmly. They're medals. They're proof that you survived something terrible and kept going. Scars that tell a story, and anyone who can't see that isn't looking hard enough. The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of support, a testament to Emily's resilience. In the front row, David sat with Emily, now 10 years old, and Sophia, now 12. Beside them was the newest member of the Harding family, a 3-year-old boy named Daniel, their biological son, who had inherited his mother's dark hair and his father's kind eyes, a symbol of their family's future. Emily was crying. Proud tears streamed down her face, a reflection of the joy and love she felt. Mom is amazing, she whispered to Sophia, her voice filled with admiration. Mom, not Maria, not Star Lady, Mom. She had been calling Emily that for 3 years now, since the day she had asked permission, and Emily had cried for an hour straight, a moment of profound connection. She really is, Sophia agreed, her eyes reflecting the love and respect she felt for Emily. Emily finished her speech and walked off stage. David met her with a hug, a warm embrace. "That was incredible," he said, his voice filled with pride and admiration. "I almost didn't do it," Emily admitted, her voice soft. "I almost hid." The fear threatened to consume her. "But you didn't," David reassured her, gently squeezing her hand. "No." Emily looked at her family, her husband, her 3 children, her life that had turned out so differently than she had ever imagined. "I didn't, because I finally realized something." "What's that?" David asked, leaning in. "That hiding doesn't protect you, it just keeps you small." Her voice grew stronger. "And I'm done being small." This was her turning point. David kissed her forehead, a tender gesture of love and support. "You were never small, Emily. You were always a star. The world just had to catch up." They walked out of the gala together, hand in hand, their bond unbreakable, a family formed not by blood alone, but by choice, by love, by the stubborn refusal to let the world define their worth. They found strength in one another. What would you have done in Emily's position? Would you have let someone hold your hand when you felt like a monster? Leave your answer in the comments below. Let's hear your thoughts, and if this story touched your heart, the Super Thanks button is a way to support more content like this. Every contribution helps bring these stories of hope and healing to life. We greatly appreciate your support. The story of Emily and David proves that beauty is not about what you look like. It's about what you do. It's about the courage to run into fire, the kindness to sit with a lost child, the strength to keep going when the world tells you to give up. A scarred woman sat in a hotel basement at the Starlight Grand Hotel. A powerful man held her hand, a gesture of unwavering support, and together they proved that love sees past scars, to the stars beneath, the unwavering light within. That is the miracle. That is the message. That is what happens when you choose love over fear. Thank you for watching, as we hope this story resonated with you. Until next time, stay strong.